Hello everyone, I'm Colin Fraser. This chapter served as an introduction to Earth and Earth as a water planet. Section 1 discussed the beginning of both the universe and the beginning of Earth. The text bases the inception of the universe on the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory states that all energy and matter began as a small singularity that eventually exploded and cooled and grew, still growing today. Different elements began to form throughout the universe as it expanded, including protons, neutrons, hydrogen, helium, and lithium. I found this really interesting as something simple as cooling was able to create elements, which eventually created life itself. I'd like to know if any more elements were formed due to the cooling of the universe. Moving forward, galaxies were talked about and discussed. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is composed of over 200 billion stars. Our solar system was then introduced and listed, including Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Section 1 concluded with the discussion of terrestrial oceans. Section 2 talked about Earth's age and time. Using radiometric dating with isotopes by Rutherford and Boltwood, who created this technique, the Earth's age has been accepted as between 4.5 to 4.6 billion years. The different geological time eras were then discussed, from the Hadean Eon to the Cainozoic era. I'm interested in the different eons and what moments in time dictated when one ended and the other began. Natural time periods were then introduced. It actually takes 365 and a quarter days for one whole orbit around the sun, but the quarter is omitted for convenience sake. The different equinoxes and solstices that occur on planet Earth were then explained, including the summer solstice, which occurs on June 2nd when there is the longest period of sunlight on planet Earth, the autumnal equinox, when the Earth is directly above the equator, the winter solstice, when the daylight period is the shortest on December 21st, and the vernal equinox, when the Earth is above the equator once again. Lunar months were then explained to be roughly 29.5 days, and a solar day was told that it is 24 hours in a day, giving us one whole day. Section 3, while brief, discussed that the Earth's smooth, nearly perfectly spherical shape is due to the turning in space, gravity, and the forces of rotation placed upon it. A question I have here is, does the Earth's shape play a role in ocean movement? Because I know that the moon does, but I'm very curious as to see if the Earth's shape does as well. Section 4 asks the question, where on Earth are you? This section went into great depth on latitude and longitude. Latitude lines are referenced from the equator, with the equator being marked 0 degrees. Any latitude line above the equator would be n degrees north, and any south would be n degrees south, with the north and south poles being 90 degrees north and 90 degrees south respectively. Longitude lines are formed at right angles of latitude lines. The 0 degree longitude line extends from pole to pole and passes through the Royal Naval Observatory in Greenwich, England. This is the prime meridian. The opposite side of this is 180 degrees longitude, which forms the international date line. The section then talks about how to measure latitude, which is done by measuring the elevation of this point in the sky above the horizon. Section 5 is brief as well, but it talks about modern navigation, primarily with the global positioning systems, better known as GPS. It consists of 24 navigational satellites, 21 operational and 3 active spares, and 5 ground-based monitoring stations. The satellites orbit at an altitude of about 20,165 kilometers and repeat the same track and relative configuration over any point about every 24 hours. Question I have here is, how are these satellites worked on? Does the company send people up there to maintain them or something else? The final section talks about the Earth primarily being a water planet. It first describes the hydrologic cycle, which is the movement of water through different reservoirs, which is anywhere water resides. A question I have here is, how small can this movement be? Could it be from one molecule to another, or even through different phases of water? The chapter then concludes with the distribution of land and water, as well as the 5 major oceans. The text states about 70% of Earth's land masses are in the northern hemisphere, and most of this land lies in the middle latitudes. The southern hemisphere is the water hemisphere, with its land located mostly in the tropical latitudes and in the polar region. The text then talks about the 5 major oceans: Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, and the Southern Oceans. The Pacific is the largest in area with over 65 million square miles, followed by the Atlantic at almost 33 million, Indian Ocean at 27 million, Southern at nearly 8.5 million, and the Arctic Ocean being the smallest at 6 million. And that is Chapter 1. Thank you for your time.